with a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and we begin conversations this morning by speaking with Mr. Roger Smith, and he is the president of REACT Team 6045, and REACT is the Radio Emergency Associated Communication Team for your Carnival 2024, as we have those discussions this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Adanna. Thanks for having me.
Of course, a pleasure to be here. And you know, we're heading into that season of Carnival, and we're talking about all the risks associated with Carnival and all the strategies that need to be implemented to reduce risks. So we're talking about communication, which is very, very important. Yes. Just last week, I spoke with the director of TEMA, Mr. Alan Stewart, and I was asking him if we could only have one thing, if we didn't have resources for anything else, and we only had the resources for one thing, and he said communication. And here we are this morning speaking about the said thing, communication. So let's get into the conversation and the role that REACT will be playing in ensuring we have a safe Carnival 2024.
Okay, good morning again to all the viewing public. The name is Roger Smith, as Ms. Adanna would have said. All right, REACT's role in communication or managing the communication system for the entire event. We provide or would be providing the manpower on the ground in the form of officers with equipment that would facilitate communication between either the bands, the band leaders, or if necessary, the machinery of the Carnival system. That would be TEMA directly, emergency services, that kind of thing. So let's say you have an incident occurring. That information, either if it was not first-hand seen by the officer or the operator, would be brought to that officer's attention, and then the necessary arrangements or communication would be made to the requisite agency, and that agency will then take further steps.
All right, so this is providing equipment, hardware, and stuff like that to ensure that the information is transmitted to the relevant persons. And you're saying that you're going to also have manpower, of course, to operate these equipment as well to ensure the information gets there. In the event you are not on, let's say you just explain, a police officer, whomever, the person involved is not on site to see what has happened. Is it that you are going to have enough manpower to be at every station or location where an incident is possible for an incident to take place? What is the strategy or the rollout for your operations?
Well, that's a question that's a kind of yes and no kind of question, because you're affected by manpower. And I think by every other agency, manpower is a little bit of an issue. So we are only operating this year with 11 officers or 11 operators. All right. Those operators would be spread out across the entire event, depending on the route. Those operators would be put strategically either in front or with a particular group. And as far as I know, based on the discussions had, there should be at least one officer, police officer, with that operator. So if things should go a particular way that is beyond the scope of the radio operator, the police would be there to intervene and necessarily sort that situation out.
Absolutely. And you know, I kind of like the way the strategy is being implemented and the collaboration with all the stakeholders and the agencies who are responsible, because at the end of the day, Carnival is just an event and we still have to live after.
Yes.
And so we have to assess the risk as much as possible and provide that measure of support, which is what you're indicating here that you're doing. But outside of Carnival, I want to talk a little bit about REACT and what REACT does, so that people can have an understanding of this agency or company as well. I'm not sure what the agency. Okay. So understand the operations and the functions and what is usually done or what can be done outside of events as big as Carnival.
Okay. Basically, we are a communications organization. So way back in the days, you might have remembered probably your uncle or grandfather or somebody talking about REACT. in those days, you had what you call citizen band radios. They were either in your car or at home in your house, and somebody with a big antenna on top of your house, and those guys would be talking all over the place, right? Not just locally, because we had local communication as in on the island, local communication as between Trinidad and Tobago, and then we had regional communication, that is from Tobago to up the islands. And outside of that, we had what we call a season of DXing, which is distance communication. Reactors also were involved in that. That was a hobby, and it also provided information in times of emergency or disaster. All right. At the club, which is what we have, it's a radio communications club. We do have events that we host for ourselves, internal events. So we have radio highlights, we have fox hunts, and a couple other things that we plan to implement, which I will not discuss here and now, but we do have events that we plan internally. All right. REACT is a national as well as an international body. There's a parent club in Trinidad, which is REACT Trinidad and Tobago. We are part of REACT Trinidad and Tobago. And we will have, on occasion, every Thursday, ClubNet, which allows the Tobago operatives, those that have radios, could facilitate that or access the network, either going to Fort King George. If you don't have a radio, the operator that does have a radio, we will share, of course. That's not a problem. And we are then part of the national network. We also have Zello as a network. REACT has a Zello channel. And we also interact on the international network via Zello.
And when you say radios, right? Because it took me way back to our grandfather days, right?
Yes.
So when you say radio, you're talking about walkie-talkie here. That's what you're talking
No.
about. Okay, so tell me the difference now between walkie-talkie and the correct name for it and the radio.
All right. In the days, 1990s, early 1990s, REACT had, very few people had what you would call walkie-talkies. That was the name that we knew them by then. But in a more advanced age, we have what is called a handy talkie, or HT. This is a representation of such a device, right? Small, portable, but very effective, right? This is my personal device. It is not what would be used on the road that day, right? This requires a special operator's license and that kind of thing to be able to own and use, all right? As a club, the HT version that we would use, you just have to be a member of REACT and an active member, so that you have your REACT ID, your subs are paid up, and then you are free to comfortably walk about. Even with outside of an event, you can use your HT to communicate with other club members.
No, you said something very important there. I never would have thought about this. You must have a license to operate this.
Yeah, well,
so
this particular device.
Okay, so is it that you can't walk into a store and say, well, I came to buy a HT?
No.
Because I just want to have some fun. You know, I want to play with my son, or I want to, you know.
That would be a different tier of equipment, right? Because I understand that there are stores in Trinidad that do sell more modular devices, to use that term loosely. All right, you could walk in there without a license. Those are governed under a different section of the Telecommunications Authority Act. So they make provision for those things for what they call family radio services, or FRS. There is GMRS and those networks. Those are short range coverage systems. So you could buy a pair of those in Trinidad. I'm not too sure what the cost would be. And you and your son or your daughter or your family members could play around the yard, maybe go on a hike and communicate.
Okay.
Right?
So I'm happy that we kind of brought that differentiation, because the fact that we can access this now, it only has short coverage.
Yes.
The one that you will be using on the road, of course, has a wider coverage.
Yes, ma'am.
And clearly you will be identified either by your uniform, your badge or something, so that we wouldn't be tricked or duped by anybody trying to pretend to be, because these are some of the things we have to look out for as well, you know, and I'm happy that that came to light in this conversation. So you're saying that you have 11 men who would be on the ground, ensuring that they are spread across the operations on that day to bring the information to the relevant authorities. In terms of a patron or somebody participating in the event, is it allowed, or should I say accessible? Are you accessible for them to say, listen, something happened over here, I didn't see a police officer, can they come to you and give you the information for you to transmit to the relevant authorities?
Yes, they can. We are accessible by John Public. as well as the relevant services, right? And as for the identification, each React team member has at least one of these jerseys that you would see this nice big logo printed that says React. So we are not the hardest people to see. It is nice bright orange. We also have high-vis reflector vests. So it will be easy to see, easy enough to see. Each person would be well identified.
Mind you, all the masqueraders will be in bright colors too.
Yes. But we'll have on a lot more clothes.
Okay. Well, good differentiation there. So I'm happy to know that the collaboration is happening, the accessibility is there, the information will be transmitted, and I know there's a command center where all of these things can transmit and ensure that the necessary responses can take place in a timely manner. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us as it relates to your operations and your operations for Carnival 2024?
Not really as in terms of share, but I would like to say we could encourage the masqueraders and general public. Be mindful of your own safety. Don't necessarily rely on the state's machinery for your safety, because you are responsible for yourself first before the state is responsible for you. So if you make unwise decisions, you may very well reap the rewards of your unwise decisions.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it takes a personal responsibility for us as, well, not us, but persons who are participating in the events. Personal responsibility is yours to ensure that you are in a safe space, that you do not rely heavily on the resources, because sometimes, you can kind of make a heavy demand on the resources, depleting the resources, and when it is absolutely necessary, then you're spread so thin that you don't have what it takes to do what you absolutely need to do. So I appreciate this conversation very much, and I appreciate, that heeding to the public there, for them to heed to, what you are speaking about this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Mr. Roger Smith, and he's the president of React Tobago, as we speak about preparing for Carnival 2024. And remember, the responsibility is yours to ensure that you're safe, your space is safe. Failing that, should something happen, you can reach out to the agencies that will be on the road there to protect, to provide the necessary responses as it relates to any incidents happening. And as we're on the topic of Carnival, remember that Tobago Updates is your official station for Carnival 2024. We'll be bringing you all the events here, and of course, Soca Titans live tonight, 7 p.m. right here on Tobago Updates television. So you want to stay tuned with us. We have to go for a short break before we continue conversations this morning. And as we go for a break, we invite you to help us share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.